beautiful.
Hello, lovers of the world. This is Cinta speaking. I love reading too much to waste my time with a book that I am not going to enjoy. So here are 5 books that I did not finish and why. Some books on this list I got pretty far into, and some books I jumped shipped pretty early once I was certain that I was not going to enjoy it. I don't really see the point in reading something that would only make me mad, and that's kind of what I was feeling with some of these books. And when I stopped reading these books, for whatever reason that might have been, I found a lot of comfort and solace in finding other readers who did not enjoy the books that I mentioned in here. So if you're watching this video based on the thumbnail, I hope you're in the same boat. I don't usually like to talk about things that I don't like in my channel or things that I hate in this channel, but I think that's kind of the point of BookTube anyway, is to hear from other people so that you can make a decision for yourself on whether you want to spend time on this particular thing. If your decision at the end of this video is to pursue these books regardless of what I say, that's still fine. The point of a review is to make you as the audience decide whether or not you want to continue with consuming that particular media. It's not necessarily to dissuade you from picking up that book. That's not what I want to do really here either. Most of it is just like, I just want to get this stuff off my chest and find a way to kind of talk about a book and hopefully, improve my skills of explaining and articulating why I like the things that I like and why I don't like the things that I don't like. So yeah, I hope you guys understand that. And if you found these books enjoyable and you're just clicking on this to see why I like my particular opinions on them, I hope you don't take particular offense. I have nothing against you or the book. It's just more so my articulation of my personal taste. So first book, I could not finish A Fatal Crossing by Tom Hindle. I can't remember how I heard of this title. I know he's pretty big because he's written other books, like I think he has another one called The Murder Game. November 1924. The Endeavour set sail from Southampton carrying 2,000 passengers and crew on a week-long voyage to New York. When an elderly gentleman is found dead at the foot of a staircase, ship's officer Timothy Birch is ready to declare it a tragic accident. But James Temple, a strong-minded Scotland Yard inspector, is certain there is more to this misfortune than meets the eye. Birch agrees to investigate, and the trail quickly leads to the theft of a priceless painting. Its very existence is known only to its owner and the dead man. All the while, passengers continue to roam the ship with a killer in their midst. So this book was recommended to me by Goodreads. I thought this was promising because of the potential class commentary, because the victim is a rich old man but is found in the third class section of the boat. There is also the potential avenue for complex themes like PTSD and lost love. The setting was very interesting, but I did not like any of the characters at all. The main detective is this kind of mashup between the BBC Sherlock Holmes and the Robert Downey Sherlock Holmes version, and he is paired with a traumatized ex-soldier as the Watson. They do not like each other at all, and because the characters don't like each other and are very antagonistic to each other, then I, as a reader, don't want to be there. I don't want to be caught in the crosshairs of their arguments. I disliked James Temple immediately. He's like a small but petulant child, but he is at least an intriguing character and shows, but he's not exactly fun to be along with. And at some point it was dragging, and I was wondering whether the Watson and the Holmes were gonna get along and work as a team, hoping for some character development, but nothing in their manners in the story showed any sense of friendship that I was kind of desperate for there to be, so that there was meaning to their rocky relationship to indicate that something between them was easing up. But good God, at some point I wondered whether they would end up the same characters as they were introduced in the beginning. It was a very daunting prospect because I wondered how much more of our sleuths arguing do I have to endure before anything interesting were to happen. Temple kind of reminds me of a kind of detective Captain Hastings from the Hercule Poirot series would have approved of. Just someone bulldozing through everyone and like looking for physical clues, thinking that that's the right way to get to the truth. I hated being in his company just as much as Birch did, but I also wasn't connecting to Birch either. Like the only thing that we had in common was the fact that we both hated being with James Temple. So I really felt like I was being handcuffed to people that I did not like and who did not want to be there. So I obviously also don't want to be there. By the halfway mark, that was when I realized I was actually bored with the story. Things were happening, like, yeah, sure, what the hell. But neither of our sleuths were particularly compelling. The rest of the cast was pretty painfully flat and uninteresting. And I eventually stopped at chapter 26 when they discovered Vivian's body. And James Temple blamed for it. Never in my entire life of reading murder mystery stories have I seen like a Sherlock Holmes character blame their Watson for the second murder. And at some point I was just like, what the heck? This is so like just frustrating. So that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, and I just put it down. I was like, I'm gonna move on to something else. And that something else was called The Sinking Admiral. I could not finish The Sinking Admiral either. The Floating Admiral was the first of the Detection Club's collaborative novels in which 12 of its members wrote a single novel. 85 years later, 14 members of the club have once again collaborated to produce The Sinking Admiral. The Admiral is a pub in the Suffolk seaside village of Crabwell. The Admiral is also the nickname of its lord, Geoffrey Horatio Fitzsimmons, as well as the name of the landlord's dinghy. None of them are as buoyant as they should be, for the pub is threatened with closure due to falling takings. Tempers are already frayed due to the arrival of a television documentary team when Fitzsimmons is found dead in his tethered boat. The villagers assume a simple case of suicide and fear that their debt-ridden pub will now sink without a trace. The journalists seem determined to finish the job by raking up old skeletons, but they weren't banking on the fact that this story has been written by 14 extremely competitive crime writers and arch-bamboozlers who will stop at nothing to save a good pub. Whatever that means. Whatever that means. I didn't like this book so much. What the heck? This... Also, like, who are these contributors? Simon... Oh, okay. I know who Simon Brett is. Kate Charles, Natasha Cooper, Stella Duffy. That sounds familiar. Martin Edwards, Ruth Dudley Edwards, Tim Heald, Jack... So I was pinning my hopes on this book. I did not feel good about DNFing the last book. So I was really hoping that I would be able to, at the very least, tolerate this one and finish it to the end. Clearly, that did not happen. This book is from the Detection Club. It's a homage to The Floating Admiral, which was written by the past members of the club, including Agatha Christie, J.K. Chesterton, etc. I wasn't a fan immediately. Our heroine with a past she doesn't want to remember. It's unexplainable attraction to this guy that I already didn't like. This rivals to lovers trope that I personally find aggravating. The setting wasn't particularly interesting. With regards to the rivals to lovers trope, I just couldn't suspend my disbelief that Ben would be appealing to Amy, our heroine, or to the reader at all. And then I stopped reading at chapter 5 when a teenager who seems to be a background character and whom we as a reader have not been formally introduced yet at the time was described as, quote, all her instincts were telling her to polish up her charms and display them as clearly as she could until a suitable sperm donor picked her as his chosen receptacle. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, how is this relevant? What kind of language is this? And I was so disgusted by the way that the author decided to describe this teenager that the reader, who at the time did not seem relevant to the plot at all. It seemed just like a random throwaway line. And I was like already feeling at this point that the book wasn't for me. And again, this was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I was like, I'm not doing this. And this passage was just the thing that made me feel like this book was not going to get any better. And there was no point in me sticking through the end to find out. Like whether I was going to be proven wrong. I was already sure that I was not going to enjoy this. And I do not want to spend my time being mad. Like, what? And then the next book I could not finish is Murder at Keyhaven Castle. This is how much I don't care about these books. I didn't even write down who wrote this book. So the thing with this book is that it is part of a series. I've actually read the first 2 books before, and I read this third one as like, okay, this is the absolute last time. I'm gonna see whether this is gonna improve. I can't even tell you why I decided to keep going with this series. I think I was intrigued by the concept of this couple, and I really wanted to see whether the writing and their relationship would get better by the 3rd book, and whether because it felt more like it's more romance than it is mystery, and I was trying to kind of expand my tastes to include more genres than just like the classic murder mystery stuff. And I was intrigued by this book series because I wanted to read authors who were more contemporary rather than just constantly reaching for golden age detective era people. Murder at Keyhaven Castle, written by Clara McKenna, with her wedding to Viscount Lindy Lyndhurst just days away. Strong-willed American expat Stella Kendrick is the talk of Edwardine society and the focus of a deadly mystery. Tensions intensify when a day trip to Southampton ends with a suspicious stranger getting trampled by a horse-drawn cab. Before anyone can explain why the victim possessed a newspaper clipping about the upcoming ceremony at Mornington Hall, tragedy strikes again, this time resulting in a murder that turns Stella's world completely upside down while implicating one of Lindy's well-regarded family members. The plot of this book is definitely a lot more interesting than the past 2 books. There's more characters introduced, and we see some of the main character Stella's past. The book series in general does something that I hate that contemporary writers writing in period pieces do, which is be explicitly vocal in their monologues about propriety and like how much our heroine is like breaking the rules and is rebelling and all that stuff. And it just takes me out of the story. Like, I'm not asking for you to be like overtly racist or sexist, but like when your #girlbossfeminism writing gets in the way of writing a particular, like there's a way to write a more updated perspective that is not offensive, that still stays true to the time period that you are writing yourself in. Otherwise, I'm like, why bother writing in this time period at all if you're not going to, I don't know. So a couple of things about this book that when I read it, I just kept thinking of decisions that I would make if I was a writer. One of them being that like the story should have stayed at the castle from the very beginning. We already have a mix of old characters and newly introduced ones. The interactions from everyone being stuck in the same place and kind of driving each other slowly crazy would have been gold to see, rather than like them moving from one place to the other. Penny is another one-dimensional catty bitch that exists to make Stella's life harder and nothing else. I did this as an audiobook and I stopped at exactly 50%. The male protagonist, Lindy, his personality isn't as present in this book because we're diving deeper into Stella's story, which is intriguing, yes, but I'm already predisposed to disliking Stella, so her backstory I found was tedious to get through. At least we have some fresh new conflict with the new characters. The Swenson family, Mr. Swenson, Mrs. Swenson, and Penny Swenson have traveled to see Stella and Lindy get married, and Stella finally finds allies in Uncle Jeb, his children, and Aunt Ivy. Aunt Ivy is not present for most of the book, and instead we spend more time with Penny and Mrs. Swenson, who are both so annoying. At least Penny has some interesting reasons why she doesn't like Stella, always being overlooked in favor of Stella and always being compared to Stella. But it's the most all girls are just jealous of me because I'm cooler than they are, so they bully me as reason that I can't take seriously. It would have been more satisfying if Stella, who is like the kindest, bravest girl ever, manages to pierce through Penny's heart and they become friends. And it would have been actual concrete proof that Stella is the kind and magnanimous person that the text is constantly trying to paint her as, and also putting forward the transformative power of friendship. But their relationship stays pretty much consistent throughout the entire book. Although I did not finish this book, maybe they magically become friends towards the end or something happens to them, but I was like, I'm ready to put this behind me. I don't really want to do this anymore. So I stopped reading. I was like, whatever. Moved on to the next book, and again, this is another book that I had high expectations. A Death in Door Country by Annalise Ryan. A Wisconsin bookstore owner and cryptozoologist is asked to investigate a series of deaths that might just be proof of fabled lake monster in this first installment of a new mystery series by USA Today bestselling author Annalise Ryan. So the story is set in Lake Michigan, and I like the idea of merging cryptids and murder mysteries, like, because it's very Scooby-Doo, which I love. So I was really excited for this. So when I was reading the premise for this book, I felt like it wasn't putting forward that this was as romance focused as it actually was. So when I picked it up, I was kind of annoyed that there was so much romance in it already, and I was like, I kind of wanted this to be a purely like murder mystery focused thing, and our protagonist is already interesting on her own. I did not really want there to be a romance element to it, but I kept going anyway. Because there was such a fluffy romantic vibe to it, I was like, okay, well, this isn't the classic murder mystery vibe that I was thinking it was going to be. I guess this will be like a more cozy vibe. So I was like, okay, I like shifted my expectations of what the book is going to be into for it to be like a cozy, a fluffier murder mystery. And then I specifically stopped at the part where the main heroine's tragic backstory was revealed, because again, I was under the impression that this was going to be a very cozy book, and then boom, intense, like bloody, gory, like a shock of my life, where there was just so much that was like, what? Like, this is so serial killer thriller vibes now. So it just put me off because I did not sign up for it to be so thriller vibes like that. And then it just made me put the book down. I just got the ick immediately. For me, I'm very like sensitive. I specifically pick books that are not suspense or thriller really. So when I got this jarring surprise, I was like, I felt a little bit duped. And it just turned me off from the book the whole, like, even because I already felt like, oh, this has more romance than I was expecting, and I wasn't really gelling with the character and the prose. So when I felt like this first inkling of betrayal, I was like, okay, I'm gonna put this book down and find something else. And then the last book that I could not finish is called The Maid by Nita Prose. So this is a book I feel like I've heard so much from other people about. I think the reason why I decided to give this a try is because it was a booktuber was talking about it, and I was like, okay, well, I need to branch out again. So Molly Gray is not like everyone else. She struggles with social skills and misreads the intentions of others. Her gran used to interpret the world for her, codifying it into simple rules that Molly could live by. Since Gran died, 25-year-old Molly has been navigating life's complexities by herself. She delights in donning her crisp uniform each morning, stocking her cart with miniature soaps and bottles, and returning guest rooms at the Regency Grand Hotel to state of perfection. But Molly's orderly life is upended the day she enters the suite of the infamous and wealthy Charles Black, only to find it in a state of disarray and Mr. Black himself dead at his bed. I actually filmed my reactions to reading this book, film my hypotheses along the way, and see that like, okay, I'm picking up what people are putting down. So here it is. I obviously did not finish it, and I'm gonna rant about why. I haven't done a reading vlog in a long time, so bear with me as I go through this. But The Maid by Nita Rose, and I'm up to here, and so far I've just been, I don't know, it's such a strange approach. So the character's just introducing herself and describing what she looks like, and already I have so many thoughts about class and a little bit of gender. The way that the main character talks about loving being a maid and how she loves being a cleaner is kind of rubs me off the wrong way. I don't know if the author themselves have ever been like a cleaner or a maid or any kind of job that is similar to what the main character has, but it just comes across like it's that trope of the servants who love to be servants and who love being in this level in life, and it's just kind of, it gives me the ick. She's describing how the hotel that she works in is her sanctuary and how much she loves how clean and grand and pristine her workplace is. I don't know if this is something that will eventually come across later in the book, but because she's the maid, like, I can't help but think that you are the reason why your workplace is so clean and gleaming. And I'm wondering if this is something the author will pursue later in the book, this commentary on the reason why her workplace is a sanctuary in the first place is because she is the one maintaining it. But yeah, I don't really like how the author is portraying this lady who loves her job as a maid. Like, she just goes on and on about how much she loves her uniform, how much she loves her trolley full of cleaning products, and likening it to a cornucopia. Like, and the word cornucopia has the connotations of abundance and, you know, wealth. But it's just such a bizarre way to introduce this character, and I am already feeling like I might, unless something drastically shifts towards the end of the novel or like in the middle of the novel, I feel like I'm not gonna enjoy this book. If this is the direction that the author keeps wanting to go to. Like it like she just said that my uniform is my freedom. Like, talk about Stockholm syndrome. Like, this is so like Okay, so now we know that the maid or the main character is autistic. And I don't know if that's any better. I mean, this could be a really interesting take on masking for sure. Class, gender, neurodivergence. So I guess I have to let the author cook. Like, I'm still valid for that knee-jerk reaction of hearing the maid talk about her work like that. But I think I must let the author cook. So I am 10% into reading The Maid. I'm not really feeling it. So I'm in chapter 2, and I've decided that I will probably stick until chapter 5. Looks like the events of the story are split into days of the week. So from chapters 1 to 5 is Monday, chapters 6 to 9 is Tuesday, chapter 10 to 14 is Wednesday, and so on. I'm just not gelling with it so far. Like, I don't really know how else to describe or articulate it. So see how I feel when I get to chapter 5, and like if I'm still not feeling it, then I might just DNF this, and at least I can say that I've tried. Okay guys, I just can't. I'm gonna officially DNF this at 16% of the audio 16% of the audiobook. The scene that is the straw that breaks the camel's back is like Molly is reminiscing about Giselle, what's her name? Like the second wife of Mr. Black, when they're like, when Giselle is putting makeup on Molly. And it's just like, I don't know, like I'm just like, this is so this is so infantilizing. I am like, I've committed to not reading this anymore. And I was looking at reviews and spoilers of the book, and I feel relieved that lots of people feel the same way. They're like, why is Molly being infantilized? Like, she's obviously on the spectrum, and like, why is she being treated like a child? Why she's like, I don't mind that she is naive. I don't mind that she just acts like a child. And it's just like, regardless of whether this is accurate representation of an autistic woman, it's just the experience is just not, and the way that people treat her as well, I don't like it. I don't really like it. I don't really like it. So no thanks. No thanks. So that's all the books that I want to talk about for this video, books I didn't finish. And yeah, I feel like I want to encourage people to stop reading books if they feel like they're not going to enjoy it. I'm not saying that you should immediately stop a book like the minute you start to feel like uncomfortable, because you would just be stuck in an echo chamber and like you would never be able to find other things outside of your, frame of reality, whatever, Like you should be able to read things that make you not like that to bring in new perspectives, right? It's tricky to advise people on how or know when to stop. And my advice is always like, your time is precious. Like, you have to evaluate like how much worth this book is going to give to your life, and decide on like whether or not that's enough for you to keep going, right? And also weigh in like, is there another book that you'd rather be reading instead? Or how much time do you realistically have? Like, if you only have like the time and capacity to read one book in your busy one in a month, you know what I mean? Like, if you're a full-time person, or if you're a parent, if you only have the time to read one book in your entire month, you should not shackle yourself to one that you are not feeling. Like, you can always start again. And so that's kind of my philosophy with DNFing books. I feel like it also gives you the space and the permission to keep going, because like, I don't want you to feel like reading is a punishment. That's why it's always okay to shift gears when you're not having a good time, because reading is a reward. Reading should be fun, and you should not have to force yourself to finish a book that you are already not like. You know what I mean? Like, there's probably a way that you can do it, like a 3 strikes and you're out kind of method. For some of the books that I talked about, that was very much the case. And for some of them, I was like, okay, I'm going to stick it in until chapter whatever. And and then I evaluate how I feel at that stage, and I'm like, okay, can I keep going? Yes. Okay, keep going. Can I keep going now? No. And then I turn back. So I think like that's the best way for you to stay a reader. You don't have to finish books. You just have to keep reading. So yeah, that's my random rant. And I hope you guys found some value in my random ass advice. So that's it. That's the end of this video. Let me know what you guys thought about the books I talked about, whether you loved them or whether you hated them too. And what's your criteria for DNFing books? I would like to know. Do you have a different method of sussing out whether this is something that, or are you a completionist where you're like, I have to finish this book so I can hate on it properly? For me, I'm not that kind of person. My time is very precious, and the world is a library. I can just pick one up and keep reading that way. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. I don't know when I'll be releasing this. You might end up getting this not for a very, very long time. All my social media links are down in the description, alongside my Ko-fi and Patreon page if you guys want to support me financially. Yeah, I'll see you guys soon, and I can't wait to share my love with you again next time. Bye! Michael Jex, Janet Lawrence, I don't know who these people are. Sorry to this man. They couldn't find anyone else. They couldn't find anyone else to write a better book. I'm sorry. This was not good.